Hey folks, welcome back to DCS. Today we're flying out the MiG-19P VRmer on Enigma's Cold War server, or Heat Blur's Dynamic Cold War server as it is now known. We're in VR. So recently there was a relatively large patch that finally fixed spotting in VR, and if you haven't seen it, then Ralfidude also posted a video of his first impressions and his settings guide, if you like, for the same headset that I'm using, the one that I've been sent by Pimax, the Pimax Crystal Line. And it was quite nice, I have to admit, to see a large YouTuber having the same struggles that I did, because all the reviews that I've seen of this headset so far have been nothing but praise. I'm assuming that all those were made by people with some background in VR, with some understanding of how to set everything up properly to make it work the best that it can. And that video Ralphie put out actually really helped me, or rather Tuvas, who he was speaking to in the video, really helped me get the settings nailed down for this thing. So I am now getting 60 to 70 FPS when it's quiet, and it drops to maybe like 30, 40 when there's quite a lot of stuff going on, and it's actually it's playable now. I can see things. I still can't quite see things as well as I can in 2D, especially not far away, but I can see things well enough to see things like missile trails, enemy aircraft, my own tracer fire so I can walk shots on target, things like that. My only qualms with VR right now are that it doesn't look as good on YouTube, and the only reason it doesn't look as good on YouTube is because I can't give you the full VR effect. You're obviously just seeing stuff through one of the eyepieces. So in this video I think I've favoured the right eye. For differing aircraft I've tend to flip it back and forth between left and right, because sometimes there's more usable information on different sides of the hood. Like flying the F-15 for example, I felt like it was more useful for you to be able to see like the range scale for the target that I've got locked up rather than my altitude. So I'd change the eye so that you're more likely to be able to see that side of the hood. Anyway, best thing about VR, easily, is the accuracy of just being able to fly the plane in general. I have quite a lot of footage. I know that I've covered the F5 in depth in this channel, but flying the F5 in VR has been one of the most eye-opening things about how you'd have to change the way that you fight if you were in a plane for real life, because there's like stamina involved in how often and how long you can hold a weird angle for your head, and the effort it takes to twist your body, and I'm not the most fit person ever, so obviously a pilot would find that easier. But generally we're not pilots, we're gamers. So that'll be a topic for another video. But being able to see so much, like in VR your field of view is so enormous compared to 2D, that keeping track of people when you're close like this and just moving around them nicely is so much easier than in flat screen. So we've got to the front line, we're head on with an F5. I don't really want to get murked immediately, so we decided to take the vertical. The MiG-19 actually has a very open cockpit to the rear, so of all the things I've flown so far, this is probably the one thing that I had the least trouble with looking behind me, and there's a few examples in this clip of me maintaining viz through manoeuvres that I would have definitely lost viz through if I was flying something else. The F5 most notably. I'm able to track this guy and a couple of friendlies through a cloud until about here. So the MiG-15 that was closest to the F5, I think he lost him too. I couldn't see where the F5 went, so I followed the MiG-15 assuming they'd be on the F5-6, and he just wasn't. One of the biggest issues I've got with VR is how the on-screen prompts that pop up, like the picture reports and the FPS in the top right corner, they stay locked to your frontal hemisphere. They don't turn with you. I'd much prefer everything to turn with you like it does in Track IR. I'm not really sure why it does what it does in VR. Obviously nothing I can do about it, but it does make certain things more difficult, because if you're in 2D with Track IR and you're looking behind you, you're not going to miss the picture reports because they follow your gaze, but in VR you actually have to keep snapping your head forwards again just to make sure you're not missing the reports. And that, as well as the fact that you have less situational awareness in VR anyway, because you're having to twist a head around a lot more and it's more difficult to do that. I feel like that's another reason that you start to lose viz in VR as well, or situational awareness, sorry, and it just makes it that much more difficult. So we merged again with an F5 head on. I can see a 21 shooting at him, so I decided to just follow the 21 to find the F5 to save my neck. Looks like he actually got the F5, there's something crashing back there. We merge with an F4, we go high. So I switch shoulders looking around, expecting him to appear on the other side of my plane. And he eventually does, but it takes ages, and through doing that we see that missile launch coming up on us. Never saw what fired it, and the aspect was never going to hit me anyway. I'm not even sure if it was aimed at me, but we just keep focus on the F4 that we can actually see. Lots of views in the flaps in the MiG-19 in this story. One thing I've found is that to save having to turn my head as far, I've been turning harder than I ordinarily would, so often I sacrifice energy for comfort, basically, and it ends up in I get in these stupid situations I wouldn't find myself in otherwise. So part of the F5 video that I'll be putting out, we'll be talking about strategies for avoiding that happening, like taking a different line on the approach to a target to try and save my neck stamina in favour of keeping the energy of the jet high. Unfortunately, we can't get the kill for that F4 because someone missiled him out from underneath me, otherwise that would have been a pretty nice first kill. Getting shot by a Vulcan there, so I'm just checking the map to see how deep in blue lines we are. Reports say that there's a guy close to my south, less than a kilometre away, but he's not hot on me, so if he's flanking left, I'm going to turn left as well. And hopefully we'll end up in a rate fight together. In the recording I can see a black speck over there, but I don't think I actually noticed it at the time. The game does look a little bit more crisp through the headset than it does in the playback, and the spotting dots look a little bit less obvious in the headset than they do. My cat's just climbing on my head, pardon me. Anyway, so we come around and we see this Phantom going up. I almost can't aim because the sun is blinding me so much. We managed to get a really nice 3-shot burst off to kill that guy. Bagel, can you please fuck off? Fucking cats. Completely lost all situational awareness at the peak of that climb. But I do see something spamming off missiles as we come back down. Looks like a Phantom's firing missiles. I can see a Sabre in the mix, and there's a MiG-21 that the Phantom has overshot. I'm going to focus the Sabre because the Phantom was clearly focused on the 21, and Sabres are an absolute pain in the arse to deal with in basically everything of this era, because they can turn with you no matter what you're in, and the only thing you can do is out-energy them, and even that can be difficult if the Sabre pilot's good. So I actually was very impressed with myself maintaining vis through this, but my neck is absolutely killing me to hold this position. But I don't want to pull too hard when there's a Sabre there, because if I bleed the speed in front of that guy, he will just chew me to pieces. So I try and transition it into a dive as quickly as possible to keep the energy high, because the higher my energy is and the less hard I have to pull, the less it hurts my spine. We do manage to keep tabs on him though through that. He is remarkably slow, not completely sure why that is. I'm hoping here to wrap this up with the Fox 2 so that I can peel off to the right and handle that Phantom that the 21's engaged with, but R3S's or K-13s are terrible missiles and it somehow misses the easiest shot ever. So we have to go back in. Nearly. Kind of flicked the stick too much with that one. And we go up. So here, I'm going up, I'm going right. Normally around this stage I'd consider reversing my turn and climbing to fall back down on top of him. But because I don't want to risk not being able to find him again if I switch shoulders, and the difficulty of looking over my left side in general, because I actually use a side stick. With a side stick, if I twist left, then the angle becomes extremely difficult to keep controlling the jet efficiently, so I favour turning right, and if you encounter me in game and you go into a left-hand rate fight because of this, I will hate you forever. Just saying. Unfortunately, don't get hits there. The difficulty of keeping vis through certain flight regimes actually forces me to change up how I'm flying, which in a way I like the challenge, and it makes me feel much more involved in the jet, because if I didn't have to think like that, that's more of a gamer's mentality, but if I'm really there and I'm having to change what I'm doing because of like real life limitations, that is actually quite immersion enhancing, which I guess is the whole point of VR in the first place. Did get some pretty nice hits on him there. Missed as he went past my guns, which is a shame. It looks like he's actually got his air brakes out. I'm not sure if he's had them out the entire time, but that might explain why he's been so freaking slow. Here I've actually got the landing flaps down. With the landing flaps down, you can punch the burner, unlike in the MiG-21, and you can actually stay behind a Sabre fairly well if you use your flaps and your throttle efficiently. In the MiG-19, a lot of people would say that you just don't want to get into a turn fight with a Sabre. Can't believe I missed that. But I'd actually argue otherwise, because if you do end up in a not so great position against a Sabre in the MiG-19, then you've got thrust for days. You can afford to get slow, because you can get fast quicker than everything else that you might encounter, with the perhaps exception of the Phantom. Some more nice hits there, and you'll know that as I went up and over that time I actually did switch the shoulder I was looking over, and that's just because I knew that he's smoking. I'm not going to struggle too much to see something that's smoking, and obviously I'm not going to struggle like in terms of the fight, because he has no chance of winning this now, especially now. So you've got 2 kills so far. Not the greatest MiG-19 sortie by my standards, but the amount of effort that it took just to get 2 compared to how much effort it would take with Track AR. I felt like I was doing so well, so well in this sortie, and it's just because I was like proud of myself for keeping virs and hitting the shots, even though I missed more than I hit, but you know what I mean. You feel more involved in VR, and the sortie wasn't as good, but I don't mean that as like to denigrate VR, because it felt amazing. This sortie felt phenomenally good. This was the first time I was actually getting out of VR what I thought it would be like from the moment that I unboxed it when it arrived. It might have taken me like 2 months to get here, but I do actually feel kind of like it was worth it all now. In my review, I made a point of talking about how Pimax don't pay you, but you earn commission. And I feel as though that's almost like enticement to get a good review. It's almost like it feels bribish to me. But I actually get it now, because I was going to kind of shit on the headset because it's so annoying to set up and it took me so long. And it costs so much for how much effort that all is. But I get it now, and it is actually awesome. Actually really enjoying it. I know that all of the downsides are my own physical limitations and not the actual hardware. Everything works as it said it would. I'm getting exactly what I wanted from it. I'm just not very bendy. So check out the link in the description for my Pimax affiliate link. Keep an eye out for the F5 video that's going to be coming out. I'm hoping to get some squad comms stuff in at some point as well, but the microphone on the headset really is not great. So I hope that you can still stomach to watch the video through, because I think with a wingman, VR would really come into its own, because I wouldn't have to twist my neck quite so far if someone else could see what I can't and call it out for me. And I think that's really what I'm missing. So VR might be an excellent immersion tool for flying with a wingman or in a squad, or a squadron I should say. 3rd kill there against the Phantom. At this stage my fuel is getting extremely low, but there are so many contacts around that I can't break off to head back to rearm, because if I spent that long flying in a straight line, I would definitely die. It may be becoming apparent that I actually don't make it home at the end of the sortie, but do you know what? It still felt fucking amazing. So keep an eye out for the future videos covering VR. Hope you enjoyed this one despite the slightly more flicky head movements. Check out the links in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
you.